The self is a story about you. This is a very uncomfortable realization. Uncomfortable for the self. As it discovers itself to be ultimately made up. And when the self is confused with you, it feels like you are made up. But that is fundamentally the difference, is you are the reality. You are being. You are existing. It's just that nothing of absolute truth can really be said about that. You and the reality of you, which is the same reality, the shared reality of all. Everything that is. You fundamentally cannot be understood at a conceptual level. You cannot be conceived of by the mind. You exist. You are. But the only way you can be known is by the direct experience. This is a very different kind of knowledge that is foreign to, and perhaps at odds with, the knowledge of the mind. Which is always looking ahead, it's always looking around. It's always looking around, it's never actually looking directly at. And it's been trained to do this, because that's a part of the nature of this physical existing. There's a lot to look around at, and there are a lot of stories to tell. If you are in this world and you are not trusting it, then it's easy for trust to be lost. All you need is one instance, one experience of pain, which is perhaps a foreign sensation to being. At least this intensity of pain. It only takes one moment of it to lose the innocence, to lose the trust that you came forth with, and that is actually natural. That first moment of pain, there is no understanding. And suddenly all of the questions begin. Why? Why would this happen? How did this happen? What caused this? Where did this come from? All of the questions asking, creating this story around the first experience of pain because of a fundamental misunderstanding. And because the intensity of the experience is maybe just too much for us to handle at that moment. realm of stark contrast. It is harsh in its intensity. Now, as we grow, we learn that beauty is also intensified. Experiences of pleasure are intensified, but we remain in resistance because we haven't processed, we haven't let go of that first experience of pain. That first experience that caused the contraction. Because it was so different, it was so new, it was so sharp, so intense. A jab in the soft underbelly of being, when everything was soft underbelly, when all of us was soft. And naturally there was this contraction and this hardening against that first experience of pain that we did not understand, and so came to fear. And ever since then, we have been trying to prevent further pain. But in the obsession with the prevention, with keeping out any more experiences of pain, not only are we keeping out everything, not only are we diminishing and limiting the spectrum of experience, we're not actually feeling that first instance. We're not actually processing it. We're not letting it through because we shut it down immediately. So immediately. But as consciousness, the consciousness of being has developed and expanded over the course of thousands and thousands of human lifetimes, of the lifetimes of all life forms, it's reaching a place in this lifetime where it's ready. It has now the perspective, the awareness of its own strength, its own resilience, its own security and safety that isn't reliant upon or affected by external events. It's expanded to allow more sensation because of that ability to tap into a deeper security. It's expanded perspective, it's expanded awareness, it's expanded allowance. It has realized through the experience of it that allowing more brings more joy. It's realizing that pain is not dangerous. It's intense, but it is just sensation. It is still being. It is not something other, something evil or malicious. It's not something wrong or harmful or dangerous. The more it's learned about itself, through all the experiencing, the more comfortable and stable it has grown. To the point that it's finally ready to begin to integrate pain as a part of experiencing and to allow pleasure in that. An experience so intense, so seemingly other, way back. That's what I feel. We're relaxing now. We're learning to relax into what is, to not be tensed against it, to not be hardened against, to not perceive the rest of being as an enemy, but as a friend and as a lover who is only ever giving us what we ask for. It's just that we forgot. That's a part of being here. And that was a part of the playing too. Wanting to have the experience of remembering. And how could you remember if you don't forget? So the forgetting was desired, was asked for, so that we could have the remembering. And the pain is desired, is asked for, so that we could experience that sensation and broaden the spectrum of experience to allow more joy, to allow more pleasure. More being means more joy, because there is more being to witness, there is more being to experience, there is more being to feel. All of that being is feeling and being felt. And there is joy in being felt, and there is joy in feeling. All of it is naturally expansive. It compounds. And so in our softening to what is, any more pains that could have been pushed against are being allowed instead. And as we allow new pains to be perceived differently, because we're not fighting against that experience of being, they're not sticking around, they're not sticking to us. They are moving through with all experience. And gradually, we are also bringing up the previous pains that we have held on to because we didn't actually fully experience them. And so, the dissolution of self, of the story about me, the awakening to the truth of being, it is a painful process. Because that story of self was created as a direct reaction to pain. It was a compacting against that experience. And everything that grew from there has been about trying to avoid, trying not to face that pain, trying to escape it, trying to prevent any future potential instance of it. And as the story of self dissolves and the truth of reality is awakened to, pain comes back in greater degree because we're letting it in now. The story of self, the ego, can't let it in. That's why it's there. It's there not to let pain in. None of this was a mistake. Nothing has gone wrong. How do we experience softening if soft is how we began? How do we experience knowing if knowing is how we began? We have to, we want to taste the other side. We wanted the experience of hardening so that we could have the experience of softening. And that's what we're doing. Humanity and all of existing is peeling off the layers, is dropping the guard, the shell, and relaxing, softening into being once more. All of this is desired. All of this is by design. We are just playing. We are not achieving some goal. We're just experiencing, because that's all there is. And that's quite enough to be all there is. We are experiencing all experience. And as we are doing so, we are dreaming up more experience. But we are beginning to dream awake. To dream consciously. And that does mean inviting pain. So when we start this journey, and it happens quite naturally, I believe it to be unstoppable. This is as unstoppable as the growth of a plant, as the blooming of flowers. Even if it doesn't happen the first go round or the next go, the fourth or fifth or whatever season, it happens. It happens. That plant will grow. This unfolding, this blooming happens. And as it does, there is an increase of pain, there is an increase of anxiety, there is despair and hopelessness and rage. Many, many sensations that we have fought to keep at bay. Not we. The story of the self has fought to keep at bay. But we're ready now. We are ready to let go of the story and face what is, directly, without story. And that is pure sensation. This is what it means to know thyself. It's not really self. To know thyself is to see through the self as the story about you. You are the reality. And as that story unravels, all of the things that it kept out, all of the sensations that it was keeping at bay, come flooding in. And there is tremendous discomfort. But gradually the discomfort is understood differently. Because without the story wrapped around it, calling it wrong, calling it bad, calling it a problem, calling it dangerous, harmful, without that story, it is just experience. It is just sensation. It doesn't have this weight. What looked like chains what looked like an anvil, a boulder coming to crush you, becomes empty. And in its emptiness, it becomes light. It's not made of lead. It's not made of stone. It doesn't have the weight that this story is lending to it. That was an illusion. And without that illusion, you see, this is just, it's like a balloon. It's an outline. There's no substance there. And without the substance, there's no density. And without the density, there's no weight. Without the weight, there's no suffering. You're not being crushed. You are not being chained. You are not trapped. This is not the end. There is no end of you. This is the end of a story about you. But as that story ends, that means that you begin to experience the reality, the truth. And the truth is so much stranger than fiction, more fantastical, more incredible. There is more beauty and adventure here than in anything that the mind could create, but you have to see it for yourself. And keep seeing it for yourself. It's not a one and done. It's a continuous unfolding of the reality of you. When the story of yourself is put down and that story is allowed to rest, you rise to the surface and you meet you directly. You begin to know you with clarity, with certainty, but it's not a certainty of comprehension. It's a certainty of experience. Because you are not a finite, flat, conceptual thing. And so you cannot be understood. You are a spreading, growing, infinite experience. You can only be experienced. And that experience is only continuous, and so it is you experiencing. You cannot be encapsulated. You cannot be put into words. If you were a book, the pages would be blank. Because you are everything that could possibly be written there. And always becoming more. So we're putting down the book, the framework, and we are stepping into the being of me, the being of you. No more self in between. No more self between us and reality, which is us. Direct contact, direct experience, intense sensation. It is safe to do this. We are ready for this. This is what we want. This is as is desired. And it only becomes more so. So it is. I love you. Take it easy.